the actual execution of how the money would go. So one of the considerations is in the area of premium pay for the county employees, that every full-time employee that worked, that is still employed by Owen County and that worked through the COVID period, would be documented by the auditor that they worked what the rate of pay was, that they worked a certain amount of hours. They would be awarded a premium pay for those hours. Now, it won't be, so if I work 1,500 hours and someone else next to me worked 1,300 hours, there's not gonna be a difference like that. There just has to be a minimum threshold of the hours. $2,000 of premium pay could be then presented to your full-time county employees and $1,000 to the part-time. This is just in the planning stage, so this has not been passed, but that would be the consideration. Now, some people will not qualify. State, generally your state paid officials would not. The elected officials could not be paid in that fashion. There would have to be something done with the salary ordinance, but that for the elected officials, there would have to be a different pathway. But if I may, the hourly employees working inside of this building, the employees out of EMS, the highway, sheriff's deputies, those type of things, once qualified would receive a lump sum payment, approximately $2,000 or $1,000 to be the one time for the year. So that is truly would be in the works. Step one is going to happen. Step two then, a lot of execution, a lot of documentation, with the possibility if all this could be accomplished, passed, presented to you, who have to make the final appropriation, the county council. You ask the commissioners, they approve or deny, comes to the county council for the final appropriation. But you're looking at the possibility, I mean, late January, probably February, I think probably would be more reasonable of that possibility for the county employees during that time of a $2,000 and $1,000. Although it looks like a lump sum bonus check, that's not actually accurate. It looks like that, but there's more that would have to be done. Then other areas could come in and make presentations for infrastructure and would look at that. The plan could be amended at all times. Now, with one caveat, with all of it, why so much in the administrative? There is also legislation before the federal government who designed this plan with the possibility that any municipality, any government that's received under $10 million, which Owen County would fall in that category, all guidelines would just be removed. That has not been passed, but there's at least discussion basically in that then it would go back to local control. Commissioners, county council, you might make a determination. So that's why I think at this point, at least the logic is putting the substantial amount on hold. There is nothing that says this has to be spent this year. This is a long term. You're talking about 2023 to 2026 as far as those. But the plan will definitely be considered by the commissioners on the 20th. The execution could be done, and then I'm sure that will come to you, county council, in January in a much more detailed area, who would qualify, who would not qualify. Vendors don't, independent contractors don't, anyone like that. This is truly when you start looking at the county employees.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay, thanks.
So with that, we've had, this was a lengthy discussion during our redevelopment meeting this past week, and Marcy and I think, yeah, Marcy, come on up if you would. And then Bruce Hamlin wants to speak about infrastructure as well. I want to be very clear though, these things are going to the Board of Commissioners and then they come to us for appropriation, and that's the tandem cycle that this works in. So I want to invite you all to address your commissioners because I know you asked to be on just for informational purposes and all, but make sure that you get with them as well and discuss your ideas.
Okay. Well, thank you. I'll try and make it quick. I appreciate your time this evening. The reason I asked to be on the agenda is because I do want to discuss the tremendous amount of funding that Owen County has as an opportunity right now. We've discussed in length the ARPA funds, and I'm going to go and head back to those here in a minute. And I appreciate Jim Bryan's explanation of those. But it's not just the ARPA funds that we need to keep our eyes on. We need to look at the long game here for Owen County. There is another huge amount of money that's the READY initiative that is state funding that Governor Holcomb has made so that regions within Owen County have the opportunity to get a possible $50 million. And those READY initiatives are a match that can be put towards projects and proposals that counties put out there, okay? Then just recently, Washington, D.C. passed the federal infrastructure bill. And now we're talking about trillions of dollars, okay, that are going to be coming this way. And it's just really important for all of us to realize that all of this funding is a generational type of funding. We will never see this in my lifetime, in your lifetime again, that we have an opportunity to use this funding to advance our county. So again, just to explain, the READY initiative, or I'll go back to ARPA. ARPA stands for American Rescue Plan Act funding. And just like Jim said, that we have about $4 million that's coming to Owen County. And the Department of U.S. Treasury says that those have to be used in 4 very specific areas. Move on to the READY initiative. The READY initiative is about $50 million, like I said. But it has to be used as a match, okay? So just hypothetically, if Owen County were to take $1 million of their ARPA funds, it's very possible that we could get another $1 million in READY initiative added to that for projects and proposals. And then all those projects and proposals would go to the county, and if there was any gap in those, keeping them from being fully funded, these trillions of dollars that are coming from the infrastructure bill would fill that gap. So that's how it's set up to be used to advance these different things. And the READY initiative, those different projects and proposals do have to go towards projects that are going to increase the population and attraction for the county. So back to the ARPA funds. Those 4 areas, the first 3 are COVID related. So they have to respond to the public health emergency, respond to workers and essential workers, and replace lost revenue. But I am here tonight specifically to come before you to talk about the water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure bucket that ARPA funds can be used for. And that's really important that we're able to put some funding in these water, sewer, and broadband infrastructures. So, for the last 2 months, the economic bill has gone before our county commissioners. I've gone before you at the county council. I've gone before the county council. I've gone before just about anybody who will listen to me, okay? So that you could see the 6 recommendations that our the economic development put together. And the reason we put these 6 recommendations together is because they align with the comprehensive plan. Now, all of you have done a lot of work this year. And because you have done this work, we received a $60,000 planning grant to begin our comprehensive plan. That plan has started, and it will be completed in July of 2022. And so it just makes logical sense that the flow and the design, and this is the first time in 11 years that Owen County is going to have a comprehensive plan. And it's laying out where the next 11 years are going to be for Owen County. So again, the reason we put these recommendations are here so that we can maximize the impact of this money and so that we can align it with exactly what's in the comprehensive plan. So all that being said, I've tried to explain all these ways that we can do this. Really, truly, I just want the money that we have, let's use it to make more money for Owen County so we can fill the gap and get things done. We will never have this opportunity again. And that's why I hope you can feel the passion in my voice. This is a tremendous opportunity that will affect my children, my grandchildren, and everyone in this room for generations to come. And we need to do everything we can to make the most for Owen County. So at the last county commissioners meeting, just like Mr. Bryan said, there was a motion made for some money of these ARPA funds to be put in the water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure bucket. The motion that was made was that of the $4 million, $250,000 would go in that bucket. Now I can tell you, I have 14 proposals on my desk right now of projects for Owen County that we could probably barely get one of them done for $250,000. And yes, it's very possible that we're going to be receiving READY money to match that, but that's still only $500,000. So I would implore the county council to possibly table that motion, or if nothing else, at least come back with a recommendation that we amend that motion, that we have further discussion to increase the amount in that bucket so that we can maximize on this. and just, again, see the best way to utilize these funds to take Owen County into the future.
Thank you, Marcia. Judy Tucker, I didn't mean to leave you out, so I know you're here.
I'm just excited, it knows me surprised, but I'm not gonna join.
Go ahead. Sure.
Okay. First of all, I want to thank each of you for serving the public. You think about all the research you do, the work you do, static you get, and the fact that you are open to letting us share with you some concerns. I did not know exactly what Marcy's going to say, but I will just share with you tonight some things I would like to help maybe paint a picture. Don't you know what this is?
Do I have to answer right now?
No, just pass it around.
It's a water vase from the 7th century.
You are very close. That is from,
Nice.
it's about 3,000 years old. It's a container that people use for water. You know what this is?
It's a guy on top of a bin.
As a perspective, it's all you will see this.
You can do this all day long.
It's all they have.
And so there's another perspective. Here's a group of 3 vehicles waiting to go to the EDC water, to get water. And my point with that being is, I'll take those. My point is sometimes you don't see what people are dealing with and what they're living with. So I would just like for you to think about that when you think about what Marcy was sharing about the need for grant dollars. We have right now $4 million that we're working on and doing engineering. That's about the cost of that. If it fits in to something that you guys feel that would be open, we could use those monies. Not only have we have thousands of gallons that are going through that people are hauling off, we have some businesses that haul water to help people. We're talking about lives, we're talking about people, we're talking about grandkids, we're talking about the quality of water that they drink. So that would help us, help our infrastructure. Owen County, as far as I'm concerned, is a wonderful place to live. I love the area. We have kids that live in the DC area, not for me. And so as you think about providing funds for different projects, keep the water at the top of the list. Obviously broadband is very important to all of us, but I just throw these out for your consideration when you think about what people go through that haul water. Now, if it's below freezing and then there's ice in the roads, you still have people that have to haul water. And think about the challenges that they have. So with that, I will thank you for allowing
Thank
me
you very
to
much.
share
Hey,
that.
is Debbie here with you guys as well? Do you want to introduce your team, just so everybody
There are a
knows?
couple with us, Judy Tucker and Debbie Keys here, and
Okay.
so on the BBP board, we're passionate about serving our communities and passionate about providing water. We think about putting lines in, water lines. We've looked at some down toward Lanes Addition, Patricksburg area, Bowling Green. We're looking at several projects, but it's critically important that we get lines into that. So I just shared that with you.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Also, Council, if there's any questions at all that you have, I'd be more than happy to answer any of those questions.
Man,
Yeah,
I'd like to at least see a report on how many areas that don't have water facilities. I'd like to see how many people because of that are affected, and how many actually currently get their own water or have water delivered by some sort of method. And then what the cost would be to put water into those areas. That would be important.
Okay.
That would give me a lot of insight merely than just say we need water.
And we're willing to do match as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
No, I'm good with that, but I don't know what the numbers are, I don't know how many people are affected. That's the kind of thing that I'd like to see.
I'll just give you couple quick numbers. If we take water 6 miles north of Spencer,
Yeah,
it's about $14 million. That's one project.
wow,
That's just one project.
yeah.
So, and we've had several projects we've been looking at. It's
Wow.
huge.
That
Yeah,
are
that's a
not
lot.
all that expensive.
No, they're not as expensive
Not all of
as
them are
that. No, I get you.
But you're still serving people in rural areas.
Well, that's what we're supposed to be doing, right?
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, wow.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Understandably, you can only spend $4 million in so many places.
We understand.
But again, that's why it's so important to use this ready funding and infrastructure funding to fill in those gaps that we can't fill.
Any money is helpful.
Right, we get it.
any other comments, from the council?
Well, the biggest challenge is what comes first. Is it the commitment up front, or is it the projects themselves? What do you suggest in terms of bridging that gap? Because it's still very fluid.
It is very fluid.
You know what I mean? So how do you tackle that?
For Owen County to submit a proposal to the state before we got $50 million of ready funding, there had to be proposals put forth for that, okay? Overall, for the entire state, there were about 700 proposals that went forward. Of those, 2 proposals of Owen County went into those, okay? It's still very fluid, but at least they have an idea of what we're wanting to focus on. And those proposals were for housing and for water and sewer infrastructure, okay? So it still has to be a little bit of both, but if the county commissioners and the county council were to put a large amount of funding into a bucket, okay? But again, hypothetically, $1 million. And then you had these different businesses come forth and say, hey, we'd like to use it for these different projects, 500,000, or even if they ask for $1.4 million, okay? It's still up to you to decide how much money out of that bucket you want to put towards that project. Maybe you only want to give them $250,000. Maybe you want to fund the whole thing. But they can't come and ask unless there's some sort of funding in that bucket to begin with. And then you always have the option, like Jim said, to amend that. You can either add to the bucket or take it away.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Marcy.
Thank you very much.
Council members, you can go ahead and mark off H and I in your agenda, because we covered, all of that. Moving on to new business, additional appropriation requests and transfers.
This was something we did last month, so I'd like to make a motion approving all 3 additional appropriations. The first one to EMS of 10,000 from the account number 1151000-23200 for the repair of an ambulance. The additional appropriation from, I can't even read the name, forgive me, but 60,000 from the account number 91540000000001002101112. Whichever number this one is, there's about 8 different numbers on here. And the final one of local road, $150,000, account number 1169-23700.
Okay, motion on the floor.
And I think there's, wait a minute, I got one more, jail housing, there it is, jail housing. I don't wanna leave them out. 3,119.47 jail housing, the account name is other charges and services, account number 4906-3010, to cover the other charges in ITN or JTN services.
Okay,
So do you have to open a hearing now first, or?
yes.
Yeah,
At this
well,
time, I'll open the public.
we can have, in order to discuss, that's why I always throw the motion to open, discuss, and you can open the discussion. Because we really don't do things by Robert's Rules of Order around here too often. Which is why I try and get that set, you know what I mean?
For the record, the hearing's open.
For the record.
Okay, you should have in front, does everybody have the appropriation and transfer forms?
Did somebody give a second?
No one's given a second yet.
Anybody want to?
Yes, I will, because these have been advertised, and we need to take action tonight before the end of the year. I second.
Okay, so, motion on the floor to approve ordinance number 2021-43, which is the local road and street, in the amount of $150,000. Ordinance number 2021-44, an additional appropriation ordinance for jail housing in the amount of $3,119.47. Ordinance number 2021-45, which is the Justice Partners at $60,000. And ordinance number 2021-46, MS in the amount of $10,000. Sheila, is there anything more on this? Any further discussion? If nothing else, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? That's 6-0. I'm gonna give these back to you because they look like originals. Sheila, is there any other business before the end of the year that needs to take place on appropriations or transfers?
You have transfers in your packets too.
Okay.
A couple of them have been added.
All right, well, I'll go ahead and make a motion. We proceed with the following transfers. From Fund 9161, line item 12300, $66.17 to the line for group insurance, 39000. And then transfer also from Fund 9161, line 12100 for $346.66 to group insurance, line 39000.
Okay. Here a second.
Second.
Motion on the floor by Anton, seconded by Chuck. For funds 9161 and 9161.
There was another one passed around when the meeting started for $13.84.
And who was that to?
I'll make an amendment to add $13.84 to that list. Also Fund 9161, line 12500 part-time to line 39000 group insurance.
Second confirmed.
Okay, thank you guys. We're working through that. Any further discussion? Nothing else, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? 6-0. All right. Sheila, anything else?
I had sent out an email to everybody and told them that if they had anything else that they found, that they needed to bring 8 copies to everybody today. So,
And I think it just, you went through the last 3 on there, but not the, Alright, the first one is we did get wrong, we took some out of 9153, but it needed to come out of 9155. It's a total of $1,538.46. It just goes from 9155 to 9153. Oops. 37000. Same line in both fund numbers.
Dawn, could you do this in-house?
I'm sorry,
Could you do that in-house?
I can't because it's different funds.
Okay.
It's different funds. If it was the same fund, yes, but since it's different funds, I cannot.
Mr. Chairman,
Sir.
I move we authorize the transfer of funds beginning with 1538.46 from pretrial 9155 to Justice Partners 9153. Second page, 5,000 from 9155 pretrial contract to 1,000 general fund, 11,300 for wages. Community corrections grant 9161, the amount of 3159 to Lit County Group Insurance.
I don't know what fund number that is.
7332.
Okay, the next one is 1384 from 9161 Community Grants Grant, 12,500 part-time to 9161 Community Grant, 39,000. Next one is 6617 from Community Corrections Grant 9161 per 12300
And I
to,
think we already did all those.
Yeah.
Yes, we did the last 3 already.
did you do the $346 one?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, except for the previous one that I read, the first 3 that I read is what I present the motion to pass.
Good copy.
Second.
Hang on. So if you take that 5,000 and you put it in the general fund, it just goes away because there's a negative
That's what it
balance.
says right here, it says to name a fund, 1,000 general fund, name of account 11300 wages.
But because the general fund is in the negative right now, if you transfer this to the 1,000 fund, it will just go away because you have to put it in the cash to go there. What we can do is wait a week and do it when there's a positive balance, but still need the motion to make the transfer when there's a positive
Okay.
balance.
Can I,
Sorry.
nobody seconded this, right?
Yeah.
All right, of the two that I previously read are standing, of this one will be approved to be transferred once the general fund is complete and once again has a positive balance. Is that fair? Okay.
So I can't move money into it.
Probably by next week, it'll be there. You can still use out of it.
Yeah, because I'm trying to get money to it. Yeah.
Second,
Yeah.
second that.
Thank you.
Madam Auditor, are you tracking this?
Or do you want me to say it all over again, Judy?
You got it.
All right. Council members, have you reviewed what Chuck went through? We, okay? All right, I have a motion on the floor by Chuck, seconded by Anton, for those transfers to take place. Any further discussion? Hearing nothing else, are you raising your hand, Donna?
No.
Hearing nothing else, I'll call for a vote. 6-0, thank you, Donna. Health Department.
Just have my grant funds that I need to appropriate there, it should be in your packet. Each one, we'll start with the COVID-19 administration fee disbursement. Well, I just left everything in supplies, equipment, and vehicle, because we don't know yet exactly what we're gonna do with that money. And then for the public health emergency preparedness, we did $2,200 to salary, $3,000 to supplies and equipment. For the immunization cooperative agreement. So what that is that's where we partner with the school to do after-school vaccines at the health department. So salaries, $2,644, supplies, $10,743.79, and travel, $1,289.25. And then our last one is our testing clinic, and we did salaries for the most part, the whole $85,000 for salary. That's our testing clinic, and that runs 6 days a week, and $1,500 for equipment. So just so you kind of see what a volume we put through. In the month of November, we did 1,686 COVID tests and 923 vaccines. So.
Impressive. Question for you. On that last one you read, you mentioned, was that Fund 9164 for the 100,000?
Yes,
And you mentioned an 80,000 figure. What is that figure again?
85,000 for salary.
Where was that at?
That should have been in the salary fringe. I think what we did is basically every 2 weeks about what it equals to instead of the actual number. So I think that's what we did there.
So on your sheet, it has, because I've got 96,100 in like contract costs.
Contract costs.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then 1,200/1,200 for salary fringe.
Right, that would be, anytime I have to fill in the COVID clinic after hours on Saturdays, then, for taxes and
Got it.
we're
And the
accounting for
1,500
that.
for supplies, but then what's the 80 number you had? Where's that at?
The what?
The 80,000 number you had.
Oh, the 85,000, that was, well, basically that was part of that,
Okay,
minus the 1,200,
got it.
so.
Thank you.
This will take all of her negative balances that we've been going through and put the specific line items will be back in the positives. And this will carry her through until June the 30th, when her new grant cycles start, unless we give her more money, it should be back.
Thank you, Christine.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to proceed in accepting all 4 of those grants.
Second.
Okay, motion on the floor by Anton, seconded by Chuck. Further discussion? Nothing else, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor? I know we've got some courthouse people here, so I'm gonna say something before we move on, because it's kinda important, but, many of you know Kenny, and I tried to get him here tonight, and, Kenny Anderson, and, at the end of the month, he's going, to retire again. He's been here since the late '90s when he retired from Allison. I think it was the late '90s, maybe some of you could tell me better, but, I'm a little biased, but I think most of you guys know that he's an awful kind man and gentleman, and, I just, even though he's absent, I wanna recognize him for his years of service to this county and the gentleman that he is. So.
If it's all the same to the council, we wanted to let 911 present. That's okay.
Go ahead.
So, I'm actually gonna sit down this time, I'm not gonna stand. There have been a lot of changes at the 911 center, in the last month. Things are a little difficult at this moment. So you guys are aware that I had an employee that left us on Thanksgiving Day. And then I also had another employee that turned in their resignation, and her last day is going to be Friday. I had an additional employee turn in their resignation, and their last day is gonna be Tuesday the 21st. Of these 3 people, 2 of them are my most senior dispatchers that I have at the center. So this will currently leave me 3 short. Of the 7 that I have, 2 of them have less than a month of service in, so they are still training, so this means that they are not a functioning, viable person to be by themselves right now. So they have to be paired up with somebody on shift that is able and willing to be able to train them. That is where it can become a little bit difficult, because with the 7 employees that I have, my average longevity, tenure, whatever word you want to put, is 1.7 years. At 1.7 years, that is when you are just starting to become your own person as a dispatcher and feel confident in the decisions that you make while you are working at a console and not constantly relying on your shift partner to answer questions for you. So that is the hurdle that we have in dispatch right now. I have, of the seniority that I have 2 people with 4 years, 1 person with 2 years, 1 person with 18 months, 1 person with 1 year, 1 person with about 45 days, and 1 person with almost 30 days. So we are going to continue to try our hardest to continue to provide the same level of service that we have been able to provide Owen County since I have taken over at the 911 center. What this means is, as we hire employees, I will then have to be training them, so I will not be in my office, I will be on the floor, training our new hires, our new employees that we get into the center. I am also going to be covering a lot of shifts, and I have also had to make some adjustments with some people's current shifts to be able to staff the center as well as we possibly can at this moment. I also have a hiring process that is currently open, and I have received 1 application. Again, I have 3 vacancies, and I have 1 application. So it makes it very hard. I have several people that are stepping up. They are aware that if they haven't stepped up in the past, this is their time to step up. So that is what we are kind of going through down at the center at this moment. So with that being said, I had given you guys all an updated packet. I know that you received it on Wednesday from Sheila, and then this is also updated a little bit from what I sent you guys on the Tuesday after the last Monday meeting. This reflects our 3 vacancies that we have going into 22. This is also requesting a base pay raise increase for dispatch. So again, I am requesting base pay increase for dispatch. However, how this is different from the last proposal that I made is I am not asking to have my own matrix or my own pay scale for years of service. We will fall within the matrix that the council has approved and has had in place since 2016. I believe it's been 2016. So we will still continue with the longevity. We will still continue whenever you guys approve COLA. I'm just asking base pay be taken to that midpoint range that was provided on the wage study, because our call volume only, not necessarily our run history, but our call volume justifies that we fall in the median of the 10 agencies that were provided information for the wage study. So that's why I'm asking for that median point at this moment.
Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion. I'm gonna say this in 2 ways. The first motion I'm gonna make is that we approve a base pay raise. Once we have found out whether this council is going to commit to that or not, then I will make a second motion as to the number. So in that case, I hereby make a motion that this council commit to a base pay raise for the 911 dispatchers at this time.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor by Chuck, to increase the base pay. What, do you wanna go ahead and say the details of the amounts?
Yeah, first amount would be
I'll
17.
second that. As we get
Thank
into-
you, please do.
Yes, I'll second that, get into another discussion.
Okay.
The number, if I'm not correct, is 1708, that's the number we're targeting. Okay. If you guys are not willing to approve that, we are willing to do 1647, which is the median
Okay.
that she was talking about moments ago.
I have a question happening with the base pay increase. Is this going to be the plus that is needed so that maybe you can get these people hired?
I am hoping so. I'm hoping by taking because currently our base pay, entry level pay is $15.34 an hour.
Second question, how many other individuals that are working will also be bumped due to the base pay raise?
3,
Uh-oh.
because you're only gonna have 3 left after the other one leaves, right?
I guess I don't understand what you mean.
Okay, do you have anyone right now working at less than 16-something base pay?
Yeah. Everybody's base pay is $15.34 an hour, and then they get the additional based on the longevity.
Okay.
So,
But, okay, is everybody then gonna be raised up from the base pay?
yes,
So everybody that has, so you were talking about raising every employee up $1.50, $2?
yes. Because if I raise base pay, and if it's just for the vacant positions that I have, and if I hire 3 people tomorrow, those 3 people will be making more than my 7 employees currently make.
If this happens, how does it affect the bottom line of your budget?
Yeah, so I've done projections, again, through 2026, and I can cover this through 2026. This is also keeping my revenue flat. This is not including any increases. However, we have seen since the public safety tax for dispatch has been in place, there has been an increase in revenue every year. Again, it's not guaranteed, but that is what we have seen since Owen County adopted the PSAT tax for dispatch.
This is a good step in taking care of a problem that is really a critical problem.
Yes,
But we'll still be lower than several of the counties around us, just so you know.
extremely lower than several of the counties around us.
Yeah.
Also, I want you guys to in this, it is also raising the base pay for dispatchers is not increasing my base pay. So my pay will continue the same of what was approved and appropriated into 2022.
Was there some kind of agreement that you couldn't work, you was not required to work a X amount of times on the floor, under your hiring practice?
That I'm not required to work the floor?
That you, yes, I
No,
mean,
that's in the county book, it's like 20, for exempt employees, it's like 20%, you're only allowed to do 20% above your normal pay rate, but we're talking about public safety here. And unfortunately, fortunately and unfortunately, we have a great person who cares about our 911 system. So she's putting in hours like crazy to cover the people who aren't
that's
there.
what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
The hours you're putting in are exceeding that by quite a bit,
Yeah,
okay? And you have to be tired.
I am, but I also have to do what I have to do to run a department and make sure that we are there for the citizens.
That's true, I
So-
understand that, but it's not fair for us not to work with you in this situation. Because you've been here and you've asked and asked and it hasn't fallen on deaf ears, it hasn't, it just, I think tonight we have to take a vote on the horn. We've made a motion and I've seconded, so I don't know how much more discussion, but it is an issue that has to be addressed.
No doubt, there's a lot of issues across the board. One concern I've got, and I mentioned it before, as this is clearly something that's got to be addressed, and I think that there's a lot of issues that we've got to address. My thing has to do more with, so you yielded to them to go first. My concern is, whenever we came up with targeted pay raises, and it's been a couple years now, we sat down with you, Sam, and said, obviously, I think at the time, there was some movement on officers going to Morgan County, and so we went towards it, and I think you guys got a very small increase, jailers got an increase, patrolmen got an increase. I think there was some rank designations in there that also got addressed. And so here we have a general fund, and the general fund as of today is still in the red. And so clearly can't address any of the other employees or look at the compensation study, which we bought and is still of good use, to address, the disparities in those pays. So I'm just, there's no way anybody else tonight is going to get a raise with the general fund in the red. Why? Because you fall under the general fund, okay?
She's come up with a plan that does not put pressure on the general fund, and other office heads can come up with plans to
I'm not-
relieve pressure on the general fund and allow us to adequately compensate our employees. That's all I'm saying.
Judge, I'm telling you my concerns here. So I would like for us to be able to come up with something in the coming months, whenever that happens, to be able to address, the other folks who have been left behind in that as well.
I don't think that anybody's really been left behind at this point. We have the wage study that was done, and Anton's always been saying, let's get this together and let's do it so that we have across the board. This is something entirely different. We have lost 3 people in a short period of time. You cannot ask 3 people to run a 24 hours, 7 days a week, and a director on top of that, because that number comes out to about 38 hours every 2 days that they're on, because they're gonna have to do extended time. And even though it is public safety and there is, by Department of Labor standards, we can actually get away with some of that. But even though that's still not right. So that's what we're here, we're addressing a need that goes directly to, which is a direct connection to emergency service between us and the citizens, or them and the citizens of our county. That's why I'm on this. That's why I'm asking you to please consider this.
Thank you. All right, any other comments?
Can I say something?
Yes.
The only way we're going to alleviate her workload is by making this competitive. She's got one application to fill 3, and that's one application that you don't even know is going to actually, be viable. So I feel like we have no choice. This is a crisis. I mean, we're looking at losing our dispatchers and, are you gonna call in? Who are you gonna talk to? Are you gonna talk to someone that's been there for, 30 days and because they haven't, because of the turnover rate? This is important. This is a crisis, and this is a step in the right direction to alleviate this.
Other council members?
So the base pay is 15.393, and you're proposing, or maybe the motion is to take it to
This is the motion to approve, agreeing to do it tonight. Then I will make a second motion.
So general,
But speaking, the two numbers are 1708 and 1647. It might be, 1708 and 1647.
so run those two numbers by
Okay,
me
the
again.
first number is, okay, if we agree with this motion right now that we're going to do it tonight, I will make a second motion beginning at 1708. Because that is, it's better than the median, but it's still not where other counties are at. But it's where we think that number's gonna at least give us more applications coming in, possibly people staying here instead of going to Monroe County.
Okay, so you've said it like 3 times. but
Yeah.
1708 first or 1647 first?
No, I'm gonna ask for 1708. First, this has to pass first. Saying we're gonna do it tonight, because it's moot if it doesn't pass.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
And restate the motion,
Just the motion is that we agree that we are going to make the pay raise tonight. And then if that passes, I'll bring up a motion for 1708 to begin at the start of the new year. Okay?
got it?
You've already got a second, right?
I do,
Yeah,
Nick?
second.
Okay, anybody else? All right, hearing nothing else, I'll call for a vote. Do you have anything else?
No, I've discussed this until I'm blue in the face, with numbers and stats and justification, so you guys understand the justification, you guys understand the why, it's just coming to a figure,
I've got
so.
one more question and then I'm gonna get there. You do think that a little something would go a really long way as far as hiring and retention?
I think it will.
Okay. All right, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? 5 against, 1.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that the EMS dispatcher base pay be raised to 1708 beginning January 1st, 2022.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion on the floor by Chuck, seconded by Paul.
I think, Mr. Chairman, something that we've looked at over the years. Might be the time to bring it up or even talk about it, but I think what we're dealing with is departments that maybe have some of their own tax rates. And we really need to look at some of these departments as a specialized department and not group everybody that works for the county, wherever they work, under the same umbrella. Now, if we address it that way, then we look at these departments one at a time, and then we deal with the issues. I know we're broke, but it did sound good, but what Jim told us tonight, that we have really pulled ourselves up by our bootstraps, and that's almost impossible. But it looks better, it looks positive. And so now we need to really, but this is something I'd like to see us do, take these departments, highway, EMS, 911, sheriff department, and these are specialty departments. I mean, they take, a lot of them take special training. You're not going to get that just working in the courthouse. And I'm not belittling anyone who works in the courthouse. I'm just saying, How do we address these issues that have become critical? Because if we stop and don't do anything, because we know that there's everybody across the board going to be upset with us, so we allow your department to fall apart, we allow something to happen, and then our liability insurance goes through the roof, and then we can't even pay for liability? I mean,
That's fine.
but,
That's fine.
and that's what.
So what was the longevity of this going, I mean, was that based, what numbers was that based on?
The current, 2021 revenue, carrying that forward flat, and then just taking each, employee's, I used the matrix that we had, took out the COLA, changed the end of year date, and came up with the annual amounts off of that, with no COLA or anything included, because I don't.
Okay, but my question is, when you said this could take you to 2026?
Yeah, 2026.
That was based on what number? Was that based on?
It was based on her income into the 911 levy.
No. I'm saying the 1708 or the
Yeah.
1647.
Mm-hmm. So it was based on the 1708. Could take me through 2026.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So if you look at the first page, the 2022 median option, I took the current 2021 budget and broke it down by employees. And that number is a little bit askewed because ideally we budgeted for some of our tenured employees that have turned in their resignation that will not be here in 2022, and put in the 1708 as the base pay, came up with the rough estimate amount. Anton would be able to 100% confirm that, of what it would cost FICA, perf, holiday pay, and wages. And from what we have in 2021 into 2022 is a difference of $38,000. Would be able to give the raise
Lost
for
three more,
everybody.
so that's gonna be fresh figures there.
So whatever the council decides to do on the dollars,
Mm-hmm.
we'll put together the totals,
Mhm.
because we'll have to come back for an appropriation to match the budget.
Yeah,
And I'm more than happy to help with that,
yeah.
so, yeah.
You talked about this going to 2026 with the budget, with the monies you see coming in, and that was flat figures.
Yes,
And you're saying that we're hoping to see an increase in those figures.
yes.
So this could go, I mean, it's a good possibility that it's workable without falling back on the county general 4, 5, 6 years down the road.
Plus also in 2028, I believe it's 2028, my loan on the building will be paid off. So that's an additional $101,000 every year. Now, by then we would be in the center 8, 9 years, replacement of equipment, new technology would probably end up taking some of that up. But there is the possibility of that there if I don't get grants, because I'm looking for grants to upgrade our technology instead of, and to be able to implement some new features within the dispatch center to make jobs easier for sheriff's department, for EMS and everyone else, so.
Of course, it would be nice too if we could get more residents in this county. We lost 154 residents from 2010 to 2020. So now we're down to 21,430 something, 17, something like that.
So the motion was, it was 1708 would be the base pay.
Yep.
Yes,
That was-
I forgot about
That was first and second.
Yep.
Okay.
Let's call it.
All right, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. Against? Me. I would have voted for the second amount, but the motion passes.
So 1708.
Anything else, ma'am?
I don't think so. This has been the thing that I've been working on, so this has been my focus. If you give me a second to think. Goodness. I came to you guys, we have a Vhf Radio Project that is currently going on. All of the equipment has come in. We are currently waiting on the FCC license to be approved by FCC to be able to start construction on the new tower down in Freedom. That is also going to include being able to do a bunch of work on our current repeaters that we have throughout the county. So this should increase our talking capability with all fire and EMS units throughout the county. So that is something that is huge for us right now because it's not great. It's okay, but it's not great. It can definitely be better, and that's what we're projecting. So I can't think of anything else right now. There's so much going on.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen.
All right.
Tell Alan we started to see him do it. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, Alan, didn't see you back there, brother.
Didn't wanna leave.
I trust me, I hear you, but I just wanted you to know I appreciate your service.
you, Jeff, thank you.
So I think, there's a lesson here tonight, and it's not to let a department hit its knees before you take action. So we've lost 2 court reporters in less than 12 months, due in part to our inadequate compensation scheme. The courts have faced significant difficulty in attempting to fill those vacancies with qualified individuals that have the requisite skills and aptitude to meet the demands of the position. Being a court reporter is not a secretarial position, it is not a clerical position, as the compensation scheme would suggest. The court reporters actively engage in the management of court business. They use independent discretion and judgment regularly with respect to numerous matters of significance to the courts. Recently, in an attempt to fill a vacancy in my office, I was turned down by 2 eminently qualified candidates, both of whom live in Owen County, both of whom wish to work in Owen County, but could not afford to take drastic pay cuts to leave comparable positions in neighboring counties. The recent wage study that this council funded illustrates that we are lagging significantly in terms of court reporter pay. We are also paying wages that are substantially below every surrounding county. Greene County pays $10,000 to $11,000 more as a base pay. Putnam County pays $9,000 more as a base pay, with a substantial longevity increase at 4 years and an anticipated 5% raise this year. Monroe County pays $13,000 more a year. They will receive a $4,000 raise in 2022. Clay County, which I think is probably the most comparable of all of these counties, pays $10,000 to $11,000 more as a base pay. They're giving a 3% raise this year and a 2% bonus. I'm not saying any of this to shove us in your faces because I know that this has been an incredibly difficult year. You've had to make incredibly difficult decisions. And we have a proposal for you that is similar to Kathleen's. But before I state the proposal, I do want to just remind you that we have worked with you. We made cuts before we were asked to make cuts. We cut the commissioner court reporter because our CHINS numbers were down and we felt that we could absorb the work. And we didn't want to ask for things we didn't need. In fact, I would say we're probably one of the few offices in the county that made a major voluntary decrease to our budget in the last 5 years. When asked, we left a full-time position open to assist with this budget crisis. That position remains open, and that constituted a non-insignificant portion of our entire office staff. I also have a vacancy in my office, and I decided not to refill that full-time vacancy for the remainder of the year. The holidays tend to be a slower time, and this is an opportunity for us to provide a further decrease in pressure to the general fund. You are all realizing that in real time. The courts and probation have sought and received grant monies and have provided additional resources to the county without cost, including technology resources that have decreased the need to transport prisoners. That's resulted in additional cost savings. So in an effort to address the inadequacy of our current compensation scheme for court reporters, we have come up with a proposal that would allow for the council to increase the base pay of our full-time court reporters to $36,000 per year in 2022 in such a manner that would require only a $12,677 increase to our wage line. I'm going to hand out the kind of dollars and cents on this proposal. I might just take one and pass it on. So this outlines it, but basically we would be asking to move $2,615 out of our dues and subscription line and move $1,800 out of our travel and mileage line, and move those amounts into our regular wages line. If we have costs in those areas, Judge Quillen and I plan to bear those at our own expense. We also have $2,200 in a Criminal Justice Institute grant funds that are approved for certain types of expenditures that we believe could be of assistance to the county, and could offset the cost of this as well. That is time sensitive, and those funds would need to be used by January 19th. So cleaning supplies, for instance, would be an eligible expense. The county could purchase additional cleaning supplies with those monies offsetting any expense for those types of items that those could replace. We would also eliminate one of the full-time court reporter positions for a total cost savings to the county of $41,643 in 2022, with reinstatement of the position being reviewed during the next budget cycle when the county's fiscal health has improved. We would create a half-time position in 2022 to assist with managing the increased workload from the elimination of the full-time position. We are not saying we do not need the full-time position. We are really running with the skeleton crew at this point, but the difficulty in filling the positions has really made it obvious to us that we're not going to get the candidates that we need to fill the positions, and we would rather reward the ladies that have been with us this whole time. And I have more to say about that. And then we would evaluate additional cuts from other lines to be placed with the regular wage line for the 2023 budget due to increased use of technology, and we're expecting that contract and subscriptions line, the expense cut out line, to substantially decrease with the contract with Thompson Reuters running out. This is a small price to pay for the return that it provides. The amount or more that gets spent on new vehicles, additional appropriations for overtime, equipment, take-home vehicles, all of the things that we pay for without batting an eye. When we really have an opportunity to invest in our people, that we have really kind of failed to do for several years. County government needs people who know how to do their jobs. We know this. We've seen what happens when that doesn't. And that's not the case. And it's a disaster. And we have those people in the courts. Our staff continued to work through the pandemic, and they worked at times when other officers were closed and were paying employees for not working. Our staff has longevity that exceeds every office in the courthouse. The loyalty of our long-term staff should not be held against them when they ask for adequate compensation. Just because they don't all leave doesn't mean you're paying them enough. So for the past several years, our staff has repeatedly risen to the occasion. They've done their job with fewer staff, and they've met the obligations of the court, and they have served, in my opinion, admirably. And I'm glad they're here tonight. So I don't have too much else to say about it other than I really feel like we have done the things that you have asked of us. I think we've done more than our share, quite frankly. I think this court staff has done more than their share. And I think it's time that they stop getting paid $10,000 less than everybody else around them.
I echo that as well. I mean, the reality is that when just got back from a conference, that, as I said, we're gonna eat all those conference monies ourselves. If it can go to our staff, give up our travel pay, we could care less if it meant our staff gets their money. We think that's money that you could look to in a budget from others if they choose to do that. I think they protect their staff as well. The wage study that was out there, it's gonna be stale. It's all pre-COVID. Nobody knew that was gonna happen. But when you got people at McDonald's who do a job that I couldn't do, making $15 an hour, or baristas at Starbucks, which I love those men and women, but the reality is that they're paid more than my staff. And that is ludicrous. So that study is probably stale, as we said here today. We can't get comparable people. I understand where Kathleen's at. And, I've always said, I'm tired of being the stepchild when it comes before the council, because you have your favorites and who yells the loudest gets it. But on the same hand, we shouldn't be punished for those that, you know, this is a time that we found a way to absorb it ourselves. And so we think that you need to quit looking at everybody as apples to apples. Start looking at
You know,
communities.
I'm sorry, but I'm gonna take a little personal offense to that, because I fought for you guys when you needed the Second Circuit Court. I fought for you guys against some of these people on this council to get your stuff done when we did the offices, when we did the probation movement. I was there, so I take offense
You've got
from that.
seniority on this board, and that's correct. The reality is, when it's come to pay for our people,
Yeah.
it's always been objects, it's always been a car, it's been a court, it's been product, and that's the same thing with many of the grants we look at. We'll give you all the product, we'll give you 100 computers, but they won't give us 10 people to run them, and so there are only 10 people to run them. So that was a very gracious gift. It certainly benefited the county greatly, same way the grant programs from CASA that has saved you money, and, you know, the adult guardianship program has saved you money that we started. Commissioners Court was working for everybody when we were doing that. I mean, we may be able to find grants for this 12,000. I am not promising that, because they're not passing out money, but it's not like I haven't come to this board and always found a way to do funding. When you look at probation, what comes out of her general fund is so low compared to other courts and other counties. This is a time that our people need to be paid.
And I think if there are concerns about fairness, which I hear you, I mean, nobody, and that's part of the reason in candor why we wanted to go after Kathleen, is because we did not want to hurt her chance of success. We did not want her to hear the argument, well, you've opened the floodgates now. But if there are concerns of fairness, you know, there's nothing to stop other departments from coming up with their own creative solutions and reprioritizing. And as far as the wage, sorry, go ahead.
I want to echo what Chuck said. You know, I know that at the end of the year and years past, we've come to everybody and said, okay, we've got wish list items and things. You know, I can remember probably no more than 2 years ago, it was the defense folks, Jacob.
That is not us. That is not the courts, just for clarification from a legal point of view.
Okay.
We may support them, but they're not under the court's budget.
But we asked department heads for priorities, and you were the one who said, hey, this is an adjustment that needs to be made. And that's something that we did. So, you know, I feel like in a lot of ways, and I'm not gonna take away from the reason you're here because it's for your staff members, but the idea, and I can feel the tension, because we get it, that, you know, the council doesn't care about you, or that you're not a priority, or that, you know, it's always unfair, or whatever. It does take me back a bit, because I know that I've supported you all.
I'm not saying you don't care about our people. I'm saying when it comes time to care and how we allocate the money, it's like anything else in the family. Certain things are deemed more important than others. And oftentimes I don't think that, in my opinion, but I think oftentimes people think the court flows evenly and softly and carefully, but the reality is that we are just as important from a public safety point of view. And I know that the auditor's gonna say that they're important too, and so we are shouting for our people at this point in time, is what that comes down to.
The second thing I wanna say is, I wish I had known, because I talked to you and I said, hey, you know, I know this is something that we're going to discuss on the dispatch thing. I wanna look at this as holistically as possible, all right? Then I come here tonight, and in which we could have utilized liaisons or whatever to sit down and, you know, grease this things a little better and talk about it. And I come here tonight and it's a compensation request. I had no clue.
Right, I think you talked to me a month ago, we had a court reporter that was working, we didn't realize how dire it was, we had to let her go. And so then from there, when we went in, it was a matter of how can we absorb this? We could not absorb this if we didn't have the quality of professionals behind us, because we spend more time training, and so we didn't decide to do this till about 2 weeks ago. Because it's like, could we do this? If we had the same situation as Kathleen, we could not. But our ladies are still with us and working, so it takes more time to train a new person than just do it themselves. So this all started, we've been working on it even this morning of what can we do, should we do it, can they handle the workload? And so we didn't know where we were coming in until probably 8:15 this morning is when we made the final call.
And also, we do not want this to be personal. I mean, this is really what I would love for you to view this as, is this is an opportunity So that wage study, it was expensive, and it has a shelf life. This is an opportunity for you to get started on that work with a very minimal impact on the general fund. This wage that we've selected, this should not be news to anybody. This is what the wage study calls for. I mean, this is the prevailing rate for court reporters. So while I understand that you would have liked more notice on this particular issue, I mean, as far as the actual rate.
It's not just for me, and I speak only from my perspective. My thing is that, again, I wanted to look at it holistically and maybe get a plan, because, I mean, obviously what we're possibly articulating is get on the agenda and, you know, work your way through the departments, and because the council's addressing this, this, and this. And my thing is, and I mean this, you know, the front row here is going to shoot me in the face, but I'm still we are still, the general fund is in the red as of today. So it makes it very difficult for me to say, you know, and that's why I wish we could have talked, because, you know, based on projections, we could have said, okay, you know, maybe February, maybe March, we look at this because this is where we're going to be, and we could sit there and kind of look at a glide path to that. But I can't tell you the things that I want to, or the things that I feel like we ought to address, because
We couldn't wait because we would have had to hire somebody else to come in for that spot. And then we didn't want to have them have 90 days and then get into the firing aspect and the employment aspect of that. And so it was, do we train or not? We knew the holidays was lighter. So that's why we're where we're at.
And you're less in the red because of that also, and you're less in the red because these ladies picked up the slack when the positions got cut.
But if we hired somebody, we didn't want to hire somebody after we had to let one go that wasn't qualified, or two actually that wasn't qualified. That's when we started talking to them, absorbing the hours. If we can't do this, then we're gonna have to hire somebody, so we won't have that money to chip back in, get rid of the perf, get rid of the liability and the insurance on that. So we had to make the call this week to decide what we were gonna do for that. So that's where it all started rolling in last week, is when we like, hey, could we do it that way?
And I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
I understand this is news, but what I will say is it's not a complicated plan. And it is something that is for 2022. I mean, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about doing this in 2022 and revisiting the number of staff, coming back around when the county's in better, you know, this is something that we actually need the positions. We're
And I'm
talking
not
about running
opposed to addressing this in 2022. If you want something on that, me individually, you know, I would be able to go along with that. It's just where we're at as tonight and not having any advance notice on it, I'm not, I can't, and that's me. So I'll open it up to everybody else because I've taken up too much time.
I agree with you. Our biggest problem is that we did not respond, and I'll take part of that responsibility. We did not respond to the wage summary reports as vociferously as we should have, because when that first one came across, I made it known to several people on here, that was the most childish wage summary projection I'd ever seen in my life. Because they didn't consider counties around us, they didn't consider anything. That's why this council decided to go to have a professional done, right, Anton? And that was done, when was it completed, Anton?
Last year.
Last year. So I'll take it, if y'all wanna beat up somebody, I'll be outside, you can bash me around. I think we're at that point where it's gonna have to happen in the next 3 months, and therefore we should probably sit right now and set those dates and make a commitment tonight that by March meeting, we will have it done, period. If that's something you guys can handle with me for 60 days.
or your March meeting can be shorter. If you just wanted to make a call on it tonight, because it's just kind of a simple, I mean, it's pretty simple, you know.
Yeah,
I understand or not, that's our issue.
But if you wouldn't be able to start till the new year anyway on hiring them anyway, right?
Well,
No, we could, we've got enough.
we've got it, it's just not gonna be.
You have
qualified.
applications?
I am interviewing somebody for a part-time position who actually has experience, but with the idea that we wanted the part-time position to try and support, what we're trying to do here tonight.
And the reason why the part-time's working is we've had a couple of hired court reporters that already have the training that are willing to step in for that, so that makes it so.
And there'll be no, transition.
Can I ask
I'm going to do
that we do this at our first January meeting to approve everything? Would that be fair? Because to be honest with you, I need some more time to look at some other aspects in the wage summary that I cannot remember at this point.
When is the?
It should be January 10th. Is that okay?
That works.
Yes, we could still interview the part-time person and then kind of give them a clue into that.
Mr. Chairman, I hereby make a motion that this committee, we can't bind ourselves for next year, but that we take a consensus that in January, we're gonna begin with the courts, and by March, have a final result in the wage summary results for the rest of the departments. Is that a fair consensus amongst us all? No, you don't like that, Anton?
So here's my 2 cents. This is weird to say this, but we actually need time, not money. We need time to put this together. And that's weird because I think that the way this is all unfolding is so disorderly and disjointed. My argument from the beginning was we need to come up with a comprehensive plan and proceed with that for everybody. Nothing against dispatch, and they know that. Nothing against the courts.
Well, it's
You know.
always fair. I'll talk to you Friday.
Yeah, fair and objective is what I've always been for. I've always been for that. Yeah, and that's how I voted for years. When the highway had their special increase, I had voted no, and they knew why. And that's the same position I'm in now, because what I want is a comprehensive plan that addresses all positions. Whether it's public safety, whether it's courthouse, it doesn't matter. We know what the report says, we just need to come up with the plan to implement it. I'm all for that. And evidently, we need to do it sooner rather than later, because now we have department heads that are in need right now. Some emergent needs, which I don't question, but that's the way we're in. So I really strongly believe we need to proceed with the whole thing. And Chuck, you were hitting on that, and I'm like, oh, you're there.
I know,
But then the January thing, so.
I understand, you gotta realize something, we are kind of a little bit at fault here. And I will accept that responsibility because we've had this wage study since last year, and I haven't done the full research. I'll be honest with you, I've read it, but I haven't really read it. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not lying to you, I'm telling you the truth. And by God, I ask and hope that you forgive me. But we have to do something. And I can live, I've asked them if they can live with us for the March number. I'm trying to work around with them as well. So they're willing to go to January 10th.
Can we do February? I mean, we need time.
Well, my
Can
only
we do
concern
it?
is just, if we have to deal with every single other department heads, we have put this together, we have come up with this, we hustled, we want our employees to have it, we need it, and I certainly understand wanting to deal with this in a comprehensive way, but I don't wanna make my people win.
We don't have
And
CCD.
we don't have, that's.
The thing is, I understand your emergent thing.
And also,
What
it doesn't seem like
I
that.
would ask of you though is to understand how you feel in being here today, because, you know, if we don't look at this comprehensively and holistically, then we leave people behind. And here's my thing. I would push also for the February thing, and I would ask for that in an amendment, but also ask that January meeting, we establish a committee for this and move forward.
I think we have a committee that can already handle it. It's called the Wage Summary Committee.
Well, then we need to revisit that.
Can I just say I'm having flashbacks
They
to
can't
our
handle it?
handling of the budget crisis and meetings and committees and
What
having to, and
happened?
then that.
No, what I'm
that
telling you
sales
is, it's going to take a lot of work
We don't have
if we
any.
do look at this holistically.
Well, yeah.
Who are they?
Oh, I don't
Do we not have a wage committee?
Or for implementation of the plan years ago, we don't have a standing.
All we're asking for you to do is approve $13,000 extra for us to pay our people a substantial raise and make us marketable. That is really the decision that we're asking you to make tonight. That is not.
Murder coming up,
I
attempted
think-
murder, I mean, we can't wait 60 days.
I think you're
to
to be commended because what you said, every department head could have done the very same thing. It could have been done during budget time too. And it could be done again in June, but at least you had the guts and the foresight to do it.
Well, we also,
And that's
we
what-
had people leave.
And
I mean,
that's what
we had people
department
leave and we
heads
couldn't
do.
fill the positions.
I'm gonna be a little bit different on that, because I'm gonna tell you right now, if this discussion would have happened, you know, about, hey, Mr. President, we want on the agenda to address these things, I can't, we are in the red. I mean, that's my point of view, but.
And then we need to do something to make it fair that the people that have the money, you know, I don't know what it is, if it's an ordinance but they're separate entities. Because if you lump everybody together, it's not fair. Do you know what I mean? But the
Hold on a
people
second.
that are saying, you know, they've got the money and it doesn't come out of general fund, they need to be separated.
It's less than a car.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the.
I hear, work with me here. 2 points. One, we couldn't have done it earlier this year because we didn't know where we were gonna stand
we still don't.
at this
I mean,
point. And truthfully, he's right, we really don't know where we're gonna stand. However, we have a brighter future than we had last month, which means that we're going to go into 2022 not in the red. I tend to agree with Anton as far as setting everything up in an orderly way based on the wage summary. However, again, they've agreed to come back in January. January to March is, from the meeting to meeting, is 60 days, or, you know, if I'm not mistaken.
And let's wait till June.
Okay, so,
No, we're not waiting till, I'm not saying we're waiting till.
Hey,
No,
Chuck,
I'm just saying.
Let's look up
Okay.
them, I mean, if they're gonna go based on what the wage, I mean, this is based on the wage
a
summary.
couple more things
Yeah.
now, we'll get to it. Do you have something?
Yeah, I mean, Sheila and I came during budget with her part-time and my seasonal. And it was said no.
Gotcha.
I was told when I came before you guys, we've done it to everybody else, we're gonna do it to you.
Okay,
And it did.
Jim? Did he run for the hills? Jim, you should have ran.
You should.
Listen,
Jim understands about court orders too.
Jim, nice,
He does, he knows
yeah.
what court orders have to do. Ask him about that.
Yeah, nice. Anyway, listen, Jim, I wanna talk about unobligated money in financial year 22 and what's available based on our glide path and projections.
Well, I mean, this would be a great time for me to say it's A, B, and C. And I'm gonna be told, I can't, because here's why. It looks like, you know, just talk very briefly to the treasurer, not on this subject, but they're doing their settlement tomorrow. It should be done, I think, somewhere in the range of noon, 1 in the afternoon. Then there's gonna be concrete numbers that are going to go and that you can see. The difficulty I have, I think what you're asking me, you know, to predict this. For the past 2 years, at least in the general fund, with 1 month's exception, it's had a negative balance. I mean, it has, this is now a new pattern, a new way to look. I am unable to tell you the exact number that I think you're going to see in January. I can say this, there's also, normally location 5 was the sheriff's department. All of that came out of the general fund, all of those salaries, the perf, every expense. 0 of that amount is going to come out of your general fund balance. I would respectfully try to tell you, I think it's going to take a couple of months at least, January and February, to see concrete numbers, what the balance is, what the new lit certification that's coming in monthly. There is also another option of looking at some possible revenue. I said it not to, oh, well, then what is it? Once you say it, there's an unknown, but there is a possibility of maybe looking at some possible general fund revenue. But on a scale of 10, this is a -5 as far as how it's worked out. So I don't have anything to add here about the merits of, is this a good position, is it a bad position? Of course, it's a legitimate request, there's no doubt about that, there couldn't be anything but that. But wanting me to tell you with candor and honesty, in January, you're gonna have X amount of extra dollars, I don't know. I do think you're gonna have a positive balance, but also understand, please, counsel, if I may, then I'll shut up, but we've got to get as a group, from the time the settlement comes in December until the next settlement comes in, whether that's May or June. I do not believe there's going to be a possibility to operate in the red month to month. I also think I don't see the possibility of 400,000, 500,000, 600,000 in riverboat or $1 million in lit to cover anything that we miss. Collectively, we've got to be correct. We've got to follow. But this isn't something, respectfully, that Owen County has done at least in the past year, of going into positive balance for a 5-month period. This is the expectation and this is the requirement. So this long drawn out answer is very simply, I don't know. You may easily have an additional $25,000 or $50,000. You may not. I think by February, after the second certificate, after the settlement is in, and you have 2 months, I think you can start looking at a trend and say, look, we've got at least a pattern of expenses, we have a pattern of revenue, and I think you can make much more concrete or rational economic decisions once you have that information.
Okay. Based on what he just said, I'm gonna ask you one more time, can you handle March with us? Let me, and just for the people who hear, can you handle it? If you work in the courthouse and you're here being represented right now, are you willing to help us out for March?
I can personally say I've been trying to help you guys out for 38 years.
I get that, that's not quite what I'm looking for,
What I'm
but,
saying is, what's 3 more months?
okay, thank you.
You know, I'm sorry.
No, hey, listen, I
38 years
You
of
never took over a while back and cost yourself 38 years of service in dispatch.
Yeah.
I mean,
So, and we have other people, 24 years, 16 years, 8 years.
trust me, I
But what I'm saying, no, I'm not agreeing, I'm just saying, but you're saying 3 more months, yeah, sure. I mean,
No,
personally, I'm speaking for myself.
because
Because I don't want to.
I'll make you a deal, if it doesn't happen in March, I'll resign. Okay? I'll make you that deal right now, because I'm pretty much fed up of it too. I can't take this anymore.
But we just.
Personally, is that fair? I mean, that's the deal, if we don't handle this
It's just
in
very
March, I'll resign.
important that, and, I mean, I was appalled when I found out what 911 base was at, 15 point. You could not pay me enough money in the world to do their job.
I know.
It's unbelievable that that's what they're paid. I'm sorry, no one, I would not do that job for any amount of money in the world.
Alright, so let me go back here.
So,
Can you, if you got the word there, can you handle February or March with us?
we can get on the February agenda because I'll have to look at the jury trials and some of that other stuff. I'll just be honest, there's a lot of stuff coming in.
Well, you know, that's Valentine's Day.
February's fine, Anton? Alright.
Sooner the better.
There it is right there. But if we don't make some movement in March, I will resign. Is that fair? That's my commitment to y'all.
Dick?
I think we've talked about this for a long time this evening. I think it's our responsibility to take board action, negative or positive. I make a motion that we grant this request to the judges.
Okay, did you have a motion?
I had a motion for consensus, not a motion, and it was never seconded, so.
Okay.
There is no motion on the
I
floor.
believe we owe that to
And I-
them, whether it passes or not.
I think you really need to put a date on that, because you can't just say tonight, you can't
Well,
say that you need to
You've got
start.
the schedule. for-
Yeah, the idea is that it would take effect in 2022.
Thank you, I'm sorry.
Do you want
But it
us
still needs be done.
to carry on with consideration?
Can we come back if you say no?
Yes.
If he wants to, I'm just,
I want you to understand though that if
There's two tracks to do-
commitment for guys till March.
And I will say, if it makes you feel better, I mean, I don't know, you know, if we're approving a 10,000 additional appropriation for this, and, you know, like, this is really not, I mean, this is, I understand we're on a tight budget, I certainly understand what Jim's saying, we really have to watch things. This is, it's $13,000, and we have cut and cut and cut and cut, and we have done the things that you've asked us to do, and we are just asking for $13,000 to get us up, get our people up to where they need to be, and it allows you an incremental implementation of the wage study. It allows you to get on board with that while it's still fresh. That's all I'm saying.
Look for employee, whether it's a part-time person.
Sorry,
or-
Mr. Chairman, you have a motion on the floor, my fault, I don't want his motion to die.
do I hear a second?
I don't even know what was the motion.
That we grant this and it starts in January, is that what you're asking?
2022.
That we take their request and take board action on it, negative or positive, because they're here tonight asking us, and it might not fly. I'm just saying, I'm gonna give them a chance, and it will be the council that makes that decision.
I'll second that motion.
I wanted to give them the chance, but are we not going to wait until March?
Well, that's.
Okay, yes, we are going to do it in March.
Yeah.
Is that what the motion is?
No, what, I was getting a consensus for March.
If the motion.
What I've asked them to do is wait until March, they said they may wait till February, which fortunately I saw a good shake head from his head, Anton's head. However, he wants to take action on this tonight to show whether we do or do not, it is the beginning of action we're gonna take,
Okay.
which I understand.
All right, so I've got a motion on the floor, seconded by Chuck. Discussion. A lot of good stuff being talked about. Until we get back in the black, and we figure out where we're at, you know, I'm not gonna be for it, but that's me, just me. Go ahead. Do you have something?
No.
Anything else?
Can I add the additional appropriation process? If you agree to it tonight, it would have to come back to your January meeting for a public hearing, so you're looking at the end of January at the soonest. If it's January, you'd be looking at February and so on. So they're at least 30 to 45 days out now, if it's approved tonight.
So it really wouldn't start till February or February 15th.
At least your January meeting, if you hold the public hearing then and it's submitted, and depending on how long it takes the state to reply back. I will also say that I've been on the phone with DLGF for weeks on end, and they are going to look hard at all additional appropriations. So I think to start little is a good step to try and see. I mean, I get it. I work in the courthouse, talk to a lot of you every day. We all need help, but at least it's a small step to see where we stand with DLGF as well. But again, you're looking at a 30 to 45 day turnaround time depending on when you do decide to approve it, whether it's tonight or March or January, February.
I just have one more. I just want to make sure I have it straight. So the 12,000, almost 13,000, that's to, I mean, you're not going to hire, you're going to leave those vacant, and then that's to compensate the ones that are.
So we cut a position during the budget crisis. That still has not been filled, and we are not filling that one. We are also turning a full-time, under this plan, eliminate a full-time position, convert it to a half-time position, basically, in reality. So that's where we would just hire that half-time person, which I am interviewing a half-time the person that can only work half-time, but is fully trained and ready to roll. So like, we would not be, this would just be to make up basically the small difference that isn't covered by eliminating that full-time position and rearranging those.
Then I'm throwing in the $2,200 like the CJI grant, which is COVID, which frankly, that can be used by law enforcement and cleaning supplies that's not supplanting, it's supplementing, like COVID cleaning supplies could be bought for the whole courthouse as a unit that maybe come out of the general fund, that commissioner's budget or whatever. I have to have that money spent by January 5th so that Donna can then turn it into a claim. That's money that, through a grant that I can tip into this to make it the 12 instead of the others. So that's what
It's
we're looking at. But
2,200,
that's time
yeah.
sensitive as well, that we're all
Yes.
looking at. So that's why we're kind of, the dates were bothering us. So we have put off some here, COVID slowed some things down and sped other things up. So the reality is that the holidays, you know, the courthouse is closed, we slowed it down. We come January 5th. I know we've got jury trials starting in January and some in February, and just boom, 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 we're gonna get back into it. It happens every year is where we're at with it, because everybody kicks the can, because nobody wants to work over Thanksgiving or the holidays. Come back in January, and that's what you're gonna have. So that's why we were hesitant of, can we make it? We think we have an option of making it where it's gonna pass, and we're gonna interview the part-time person with, pray that it's gonna go through, but we can't afford to go 4 months without.
And you're talking about if this passed, then it would be, I mean, Sheila, you said it would be like closer to February when it would actually be.
If you approved it tonight, it would have to then be a public hearing on your January 10th meeting and then submitted to the state from there, which usually can take a week, 10
And that would be
days.
fine, because they could absorb the hours during that time, because we're lowering that anyway, so we can kind of slowly go into that, so that's what's at with the part-time person coming.
Yeah, and the part-time person could not start until January 7th, I think, at the earliest, so.
So that's what this is about. That's where we're at.
So I'll call for a vote on this, and then I think there was another measure possibly after it. So I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. Against? 2. So the motion passes. Is there a?
Yeah, we're gonna, it is clear, this wasn't, we don't have any new people coming on next year, we can try and find this from one year to the next. I make a motion that we begin the wage summary finalization process at the January 10th meeting, and have a final answer on the March 9th? I can't remember. Whatever March's meeting is for Monday. Second Monday, sorry.
I just want to make sure I understood what just happened.
What?
Did you all just approve our request?
Yes, we did.
Okay, just want to make sure I was like,
No, we did. Now what we're doing is committing to the rest of the county
okay, thank
on the
you.
wage summary, or on the wage
I second
study.
that motion.
Thank you.
You're telling me Valentine's Day is still on the table for me, I can go for that instead of come back because.
But we need to go in January for the additional appropriation.
We need additional appropriation form filled out with the.
We'll work on the
That's
numbers.
for January Day, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you both for.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Really do.
All right.
And you might be thinking amongst yourself, that $2,200 for supplementing on cleaning, because we do have to use it, I don't wanna lose it.
Greg?
Didn't you make a motion?
Yes, there was a motion.
Maybe there's a motion. There's a motion.
Nick made the motion, Chuck seconded.
Motion, Amy.
Alan, come shake my hand for you.
Chuck made the motion to start the wage commitment and Amy seconded it.
That's where I was.
Okay.
So we need a vote.
Okay, so discussion.
All right, Greg?
Well, we do have a.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Polly, thank you.
We do have a vote, a motion. Point of order. We have a motion and a second we need to discuss and then.
Yeah, do you want me to say it again?
Yes.
I make a motion that we begin wage study finalization and implementation on January 10th and complete it on our March meeting.
Okay, motion on the floor, January 10th start,
I say.
March completion, seconded by Amy. Further discussion? Call for a vote, and all those in favor? 6-0.
Motion for a 10-minute break, sir. We need to go to the bathroom.
I'll yield to you. Do you wanna, I already called him up, so.
Oh, my fault.
That's fine.
I thought
What do
we
you
took care
got?
of your issue.
How long?
Just a second.
Hey, Jack,
Can you hang 2 minutes?
I'll give.
Can report to you, Jim and I and Sheila, work closely, as well as Earl and Nick, on my budget. It's gonna be nice to report that all three of my funds are gonna be in the black to the tune of around $100,000, all three of them going into the new year, which, Highway Department has done since 2019. So that was quite a success, and that was teamwork getting that done. In regard to your wage study, I appreciate you addressing this when you say you're going to. I would like to work with my liaisons in regard to that, because I will just tell you, my budget can't handle a raise for my employees. It does not exist with the inflation this year and the product, and we just had to cut $238,000 out of the budget. So, I appreciate that being said, but my budget can't handle that. So I'd work with that, and maybe something Highway Department could stretch out to 23, but in 22, that cannot happen. So I just wanted to tell you, thank you for your work, but in regard to the Highway Department, it's not gonna happen this year. There's not the money to do it. That's all I got.
Thanks, Greg. Hey, I appreciate, the hard work during the storms as well.
Amen.
You wanna, you need,
He does and I do. I can't.
okay, go ahead.
I mean, you know.
9:15, I guess?
Sure, I mean,
Yeah. Go.
50,000, probably 500 miles on it.
Sorry.
What my frontline Tahoe, that should have came out about 2 years ago, came out of the rotation and been the backup Tahoe. Now we're looking at the backup Tahoe having about 175,000 miles on it right now. We've been looking at Tahoes. Think maybe with God's grace, we might be able to get our hands on one. It's being delivered to the dealership on the 16th. So I'm trying to get things lined up to maybe try to get our hands on that one before someone else sees it, because they're like hen's teeth right now. They're just not available. This guy, or this dealership, has had them ordered for a while. I've reached out to other dealerships, and it just looks like there's a small opportunity here to get a Tahoe. I really don't want to say what the two quotes that I've got in. I really don't want to say what those are, because I'm still waiting for a third quote. But at any rate, like Jim alluded to, we've got over $500,000 in cash balance, and the second tax disbursement for the year is yet to come into our fund. I anticipate over $800,000 cash balance whenever we move over into 2022.
I'd like to make a motion that we authorize $50,000 from the EMS fund. 1151-000, since this money does come directly from his line item fund, and there is $500,000 in it, to purchase is it a 2021 or 2022?
It'd be a 2021.
2021 Chevrolet Hot Top.
I'll second that motion.
Motion on the floor by Chuck, second by Anton, for authorization to use Chris's cash balance to purchase Tahoe. What are you gonna do with the old?
It would have to go to surplus, be offered up for surplus. I would warn any of the department heads that decide they wanted it.
Isn't that the one you had to replace the transmission in last year?
We put a used transmission in last year trying to get us through. The front differential's in really bad shape right now. The front suspension is shot. There's just not much left good on the truck. So yeah, we had to take the frontline Tahoe in the other day for some maintenance on it, and luckily I scheduled it for a day that we were paramedic heavy on the ambulances. So the supervisor for about 5 hours was just out of service. I didn't want to put in that backup Tahoe to run up and down the road at 75 miles an hour. I just didn't feel comfortable doing that. So
I call for a vote.
A quick question. So from a timing standpoint, and as far as like how soon can he act, like with action?
January 10th meeting, you have to do a public hearing because it's an additional appropriation. I've also added, it's to the specific line item for a vehicle of $31,600. You have in your.
Thank you for asking that.
I'd like to add an amendment to the motion, the information that was just provided by the auditor from the line items and the dates of appropriation and approval for publication.
That's fine with me for clarity, yeah.
Okay, so that's good with both ends of the motion. So, any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, 6-0. What else do you have, sir?
we're hoping that this year with having this vote plus the vote that we're hoping we get from the commissioners, that we can have this guy hold it for us. We're hoping that we'll hold it. If not, we're probably going to go into 2022, probably early summer before they start releasing the 2022 Tahoes. So that's why we're really hoping to get our hands on this one, because they're just not there. Run volume, 3,350 is where we're at about right now.
That's higher than last year, isn't it?
Yeah, we hit, it was 3,013 last year, December 31st. So we are at
15%.
Give it a quick, if you, I don't think anybody from the health department this year, but what, you know, I keep hearing about this second surge of COVID into Indiana. Are you guys seeing?
seeing a lot of it for some reason. Yep, and then,
And let's give credit, there was a former Owen County UMass passed away this week. Can you touch on that?
yeah, the former director, the director before me, that I was his assistant director, passed away from complications of COVID last Friday.
What was his name?
Jared Chaffin.
Let's include memoirs for him in our notes, in our minutes, please.
He wasn't very old, right?
No, he wasn't. Younger than me.
That's what I,
Makes me, certainly makes me think. So yeah, we've had a record year of income this year also, over $800,000 of income through our billing. So, of course, run volume up, income.
I was happy to donate to that.
Oh, thank you, we appreciate that.
You have anything else?
I think that's what.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
For your work.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank everybody down there, email for us too.
I didn't know where this came from, but I want to thank you, Nick, for.
I supervised Peg making it.
Please tell the chef.
Good,
Thank
I've already tried it.
you.
On the back here, wait.
Yeah, for those that didn't get candy, it was Nick that provided us with candy.
Approve the DNR timber sales for January and hand out checks to subsequent fire.
Yeah, what was the total?
Yeah, that was unfortunately small.
Yes.
Compared to previous.
I was told that actually needs to go to the commissioners as the legislative body.
And there'll be a resolution ready.
Okay.
So.
Well, all right, moving on. Salary ordinance confirmation summaries.
No, this is the one we're talking about, just the monthly confirmation.
The normal,
Yes.
Pile you had.
Motion,
You got
we
that file?
authorize,
You usually give me a set to look at and then what you want me to sign.
That whole pile that I gave you a while ago needs signed.
Okay, well, let me find it.
I make a motion, we authorize the president to approve the confirmation summaries. If you notice anything odd, you can bring us back something.
Got it. Chuck and Nick, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? 6-0. Can I sign this in orange? Okay, this is the meeting.
Would you like to read it?
Orange. Go ahead and laugh. All right, I'll get those signed.
so since we're on the subject of salaries for highway, we do need to take some action on his, if this would be a good time.
Yes.
So, back when we had our hearings planning for 2020, while at the same time trimming, cutting 21, because if you know, he had floods that devastated his cash balance and his budget. So he had a number of positions that he chose voluntarily not to fill in order to save money. Well, in the mix of managing that and planning for 22, a different position was filled and one of the ones that wasn't. There was some kind of something. And so we need to take some action that would essentially fix the problem, not cost anybody any money, not cost anybody's job. And we came up with a solution to do that, and that was in your packet. And what, and I'm gonna go and put this in the form of a motion. That is to temporarily vacate the number 19 truck position, reactivate the number 3 laborer position. That's the only action we really need tonight. But then what'll happen is when 22 starts, he's got a gentleman that'll be CDL that will need to be moved into the truck driver, so we'll need to put that back, and then we can vacate the laborer that we originally were gonna get rid of. That's
Can
kind
I
of,
ask why, if we're 2 weeks away from 2022?
well, it concerns the budget and the salary ordinance, and we need to formalize the decision in a public meeting.
I'll second it.
Yeah.
Motion on the floor by Anton, seconded by Chuck. You have in here the proposals via the email about the truck position and so on and so forth that was mentioned. Madam Auditor, you have all the details. Further discussion. Hearing nothing else, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor? 6-0. All right, moving on to the 2022 salary ordinance.
So what we've done on the salary ordinance is we've kind of updated last year's document that Jim prepared. Instead of 21 budget year, it's 22. And the ordinance will be a new number this year. This represents a snapshot of all wages and salaries as of employee data of December 3rd. Subject to our policy that's already in place and the parameters that we set during budget hearings.
And I received a phone call, this, week, questioning something that I'm not completely clarified on even after reading it, but it concerns the education components, and how that is actually distributed amongst our employees. Now, I know from some understanding that we cannot, or we don't give it to, I guess, state paid, employees, or the ones that are, whose wages are determined by the state and not us. I noticed in the ordinance that we're about to go, in the full thing, where it shows that the education component, that there were at least one that I can remember that's getting the educational component that is, I believe, a state wage position, and then there are some who are not getting it, who are not state mandated positions. If it's okay if I mention?
Absolutely.
Jack in particular is the one who brought this to me. I kind of look at this and I go, you know what, he's got a heck of a point, because there is no, from what I see from the 2016-001 ordinance, there is no separation or delineation of how that is supposed to be used. It just simply says on the 4th page, in the 4th page, 2nd bullet point, education, that once proof is provided, that component will be figured and paid for after the following of proof. It doesn't say anything about why someone does or does not get it, it just simply says the additional amount of compensation. So I'm kind of wondering why Jack's left out. And if there, and I'm not aware of anybody else, but I'm assuming there might be 1 or 2 that don't know about it or just haven't said anything to us. Could I get an explanation of why that is and who makes that decision?
So the council makes that decision. The spreadsheet has the layout of what position groups have the education component, and that's in the packet. Appointed positions don't have it, elected positions don't have it. Mandated don't, except probation officers by law. And your specialty positions don't. And the reason why, and this is years ago, is because a lot of those positions are one of a kind and they're given specific compensation based on what their job is. And the education they have is not necessarily separate from that. It's just the position's the position. The education component is designed for larger or broader groups of employees that do the same type of thing, but you have a differentiating factor, education in this case, where if someone happens to have a degree, they get a little extra, different from the person that doesn't. But like in Jack's case, again, not to single you out, Jack, but as example, he's only one EMA director, and we pay X amount to the EMA director. We don't have any other extras, we don't have a rank, we don't have a shift component. There's several that don't apply to those type of positions.
So it's because he's an appointed position?
In this case, yes.
I then, could we somehow get some clarification written in here, or am I just?
Well, it says there are 9 compensation components. They're specifically.
Tell me where that is, please.
It's on page 2.
Thank you.
And it says they're specifically identified and assigned to each position group, and then are added together, yada, yada, yada. So that position group specifically identifies base, COLA, and longevity, and that's what we pay on in that particular position group for that position.
What did you, I'm sorry, Anton, I couldn't hear what you said.
Page 2.
Those 3 things?
Yes, page 2.
What did you just reference that identifies those 3 things? I'm sorry, I couldn't.
Our spreadsheet that we use to figure all the wages has that.
Spreadsheet.
Correct.
Is what identifies that.
Yeah, and you have a copy of that.
I do have.
Okay, and so it does show on their base, COLA and longevity apply for that position.
And who authored the spreadsheet?
That is something that I built, but that's something that's a tool for the council to determine wages during the budget process.
And how did you determine that the education component should not be on certain mandated positions and specialty positions and appointed positions?
Well, that's not my determination, that's the council's determination. Yeah.
Well, you said you built a spreadsheet.
Yes.
Well,
but
Jack,
that's a
I want
tool.
to take over the meeting a second, because I want to be fair. There are lots of different things, whether it's liaisons going to the highway department or the sheriff's department. I will tell you, I referenced when the sheriff gave raises, what was it? Me and Jennifer and you sat down, we wrote everything out, and then we brought it to the council, and the council voted on it. So I feel like, in fairness, everybody votes on it, and if they don't want to vote on it, then it needs to be amended, and then we vote to amend it, you know. So I know that I feel like he's taking some heat here because he wrote it, but if people don't like it, don't vote for it, you know. It's the council's, it's not Antonette's.
I just asked who authored it.
Yeah.
And where that information come from. If there was a document somewhere that he used to build that worksheet, that's all I want to know. And I'd also like clarification on something else that he said, if you don't mind if I ask another question. You made reference to mandated positions, some that got it, and some that don't get it. And we refer to the mandated positions that receive the education component. You said that is by law.
Correct. Yeah, probation officers have an education component to their pay scale as set by the state.
Absolutely, yeah, they tell you what you're gonna pay them.
Yes.
But is it Indiana code that says that you have to pay them an additional $400?
Yes. It's a percentage of the total wage, and it's available to, I think it's a probation officer that has more than 5 years of service. Don't quote me on that, but there's a provision that says it's 5% of the salary for anyone that has a degree after that years of service, so.
Okay. Someone could please provide me that documentation? I would love that.
You know, that's a good question, because I will tell you, the judges, the prosecutors, the sheriff, there are certain jobs that are mandated by the state that their salary is set at a specific range or a specific amount.
I'll email it to you, Jack. Yeah, it's put out by the court services group at the state, and it has the salary schedule for the probation officers that we have to follow. And there is a degree component in that we're.
I know that you're really required to be a probation officer. I understand that. And I understand that's how they come to the conclusion of what those probation officers should make. What I need specifically is where it says that the local entity has to pay an additional education component on top of their salary.
Yeah, that's in that form I'll send you.
That's what I'm looking for.
Correct, yes, yeah, it's dictated by the law.
So, you know, I took your question, you know, I asked Jim, I said, would you look at this as well? You know, Jim's not had a chance to do that. Why not, Jim?
Possibly, someone just asked me about 2 hours ago.
But.
And he's still here.
Yeah, if, I don't suppose, I mean, I guess, Jim, it is what it is in this document, and you can look at it after we.
I mean,
One specific of Jim.
Yeah.
The specific I'm looking for because I'm either too stupid or I'm not seeing it, meaning I'm blind and deaf and dumb. But I do not see the component where it says these offices shall receive it and these offices won't. I see simply education. Even going through the selected positions, there's nothing in there that tells me this is who that gets it and who doesn't get it. I would, and it could be something really small I'm missing, I don't know.
Yeah, well.
If you could look for that.
Yeah, it's not, this document is the overall policy that defines the structure.
Yeah, but our
You're not
policy
gonna find it in
also-
that.
I get, well, it should be in there because.
It should not be in there, no, because this is an overarching policy document.
Then where is it?
It's in the salary ordinance, which we approve every year through the budget process. So if you look at the work we've done every August, we go through and we set the appropriate amounts for all those different components.
Yeah.
And we come up with everybody's wages.
Okay, but.
And then we set those wages in the
Don't we
budget.
also partially base it on this right here?
Well, it's defined generally there as a part of the policy, but as far as the dollar amounts that go with those and where they apply, that's a part of the budget
This is not a matter
process.
of dollar amounts, this is a matter of whether somebody's gonna get paid the educational component or not.
Well,
And I don't know where I have to find that, and he's looking for something from the state, I'm looking for something specifically that says, this is what we're gonna set for each person.
It's in these pages right here.
I have some.
Oh, I have to go through all that, okay.
All right.
That's the thing that he makes and puts out and asks you guys to approve it every year.
Yeah.
If you approve that tonight, you're getting ready to take a vote on it, if you approve it tonight, you're allowing this to happen again next year to the appointed, some of the mandated, and the specialty, the same people that have been.
Fair question.
excluded from this
Hold on, Jack,
all along.
can you show me?
I don't think that that's the intent,
Can you
Jack.
show me?
No one is
Jack,
trying to exclude you, Jack.
Listen.
You didn't have to try, it's been done.
Jack,
There's no,
Anton, listen, guys, I just asked the question a minute ago, and I said, if, it's not going to affect, if we approve it, okay, and we do a look back, and it was supposed to be a certain way, okay, then we have to address it. If we do a look back and it's not supposed to be that certain way, then it wasn't meant to be in the first place, correct?
No, you're wrong. If you approve it tonight, what you're doing is you're taking that 2016 ordinance that does not say what his spreadsheet says. He adjusted that spreadsheet to say what it says. And you're attaching that 2016 ordinance tonight, so it's got the law, the teeth in it, to pay it. What you're doing is basically using that ordinance to approve his spreadsheet. What needs to happen is that spreadsheet needs to be fixed and brought back to match the ordinance, because it doesn't right now, and then brought back to you guys for review.
Okay, listen.
The spreadsheet is wrong in my opinion. It does not match the ordinance. It matches what Anton wants to pay.
that is totally false, Jack.
Show me the documentation that you
This right-
built that
This is a tool to help this board, Jack, make the decision.
But you built it, Anton.
But it's,
Hey, listen, I want to clarify something again.
it's been that way since day one. It's never been changed. It's always been that way.
That doesn't mean it's right.
Right, but I've not changed anything.
You built it wrong to begin with.
It's not been built wrong.
It doesn't match what's in the ordinance.
The ordinance states compensation components are specifically identified and assigned to each position group.
By whom?
The county council.
When?
During the budget process.
Tonight.
Well,
Is when it gets
August, but
approved.
then through tonight, we have the official salary ordinance.
Okay.
Then this has
Then
all
the
been
council's getting ready to
disclosed
vote
and
on something.
discussed.
Then they're getting ready to vote on something.
Okay.
We'll find out if they want to do it or not.
Okay. I just want to make sure
Yeah,
and
there is a problem with this because I don't recall in several places discussing educational components during COLA or any of the discussions for the time that I've been on this board. I've been on for 11 years. In fact, I honestly did not know how that was determined, other than when I read it in 2016 when we approved it, that it was simply an educational component. I don't know exactly what turns that component on or off for each person who comes onto this to work for the county. That's what he's looking for. I don't think it's an unreasonable question.
No.
And in that ordinance, it does not say what turns it on or off. Is it because he's appointed? Is it because state mandates he should get it or shouldn't get it? That's what we're saying here. It's not there, it's not obvious, in other words.
Chuck, listen.
his job description states the components that he's paid for.
That's not true.
It is true.
It is not true. I've got my job description right in front of me.
Let's see it.
I'd like for you to show it to me.
Let's take a look.
This should be, still has been on. I mean, I don't understand it from there.
Thank you, Jack. This is not the current job description.
It certainly is. It's the most recent.
That's the recommendation of the wage study. We've not officially adopted or changed our structure to reflect that.
It's the one that I was sent to follow.
As of when?
I think it was November 8th of 2020.
Okay, then that's not current.
All right.
I'm sorry.
I
The current job descriptions that we have had for years reflect the components for each.
So in each person's job description.
Correct.
Okay, so now we have a place to look. Jim, could you?
And that's what I've been trying to get to all along. So the bottom line
My
is,
apologies, sir.
look, I've talked to Jim about this. He's gonna look at, if we need to delay a vote, we'll delay a vote. I don't wanna vote the wrong way, but I want to make one thing clear. We go through this every year, okay? We have to go through, so it makes me feel stupid if you think that it's just Anton's document, all right? It's a county council document. I read it and I look through it. I wasn't addressed this question last year, so I've never had a chance to look at your specific situation or your question. But he may write things. There's a lot of us that do different things for this council and then we vote on it. But it's me that makes a vote for what this council does. And it's each of them that makes a vote for what this council does. So while it may sound like you're saying it's Anton Neff that authored it, no, I will absolutely not accept that, Jack. It's me. I have to look and make the best vote I can on everything here. And you know what? I'm supposed to read it.
Yeah.
I think in light of the discussion we're having tonight, maybe there's some gray areas in this that we really need to address, or Jim needs to. Because here's the thing, we're putting together a document that we send to the auditor, and then we tell the auditor, you follow this document. And if there's gray areas in that, I don't know if that's fair to the auditor, because how do you interpret it if...
There's no gray areas. She will tell you there's no gray areas. We are 100% accurate on payroll, And well, I'll say not 100%, there's always something. But we are extremely accurate. We have 3 sets of eyes on this stuff. We follow the policy to the nose. This has been shared with lots of people. It's on the server and it should be accessible to everybody. It's provided monthly, and it reflects the employee changes that this board approves every single month.
Okay,
The thing I take exception to is being personally attacked, and I apologize for interpreting it that way, but I'm following the policy of this board. And to make it sound like it's my decision solely, it's never been my decision solely. And it isn't my decision. It's the board's decision. I want to make that clear. Okay?
Here's a question I have to land on, and I'm not attacking you. I mean, and I hope you didn't think it.
No,
But then
you're not.
we are looking at something that's been brought up that has some major impact. But it says the Owen County Council, with the assistance of the agent, salary committee, and the auditor's office, is the governing body which determines how the structure is built, how all of the parts are defined, and the applicable dollar amounts within. Where is the wage committee?
That's what I wanna know.
So we had a wage committee when we implemented the system 10 years ago. We had that committee stay in force in order to vet proposals for changes in the system over time. We got to the point where the system had all the bugs worked out, everything was working good, everybody knew the procedure, and the council was gonna then start considering all of the changes during either the year or during the budget process. So there really hasn't been an appointed committee to vet those proposals. Because it's come to us as a group. We haven't needed a committee.
I've got a question. I mean, my problem is, like, if there are payroll questions and stuff that comes to the auditors, I mean, to Sherry, because she's the payroll clerk, and if they don't know, I mean, they do come straight to you.
They have asked, yes.
And to me,
We work on it regularly.
just clue me in here, because, you know,
Sure.
I'm a newbie, but how come it's just you? I mean, instead of the whole council?
Well, it's a technical question, and we've got the answers to help the process. What would need to come to the council?
Well, okay, but
What
I
would be
mean, I
the
guess, I
question?
feel like that's kind of a conflict of interest. I mean, and I'm not saying you're doing it on purpose at all, but I just feel like questions like that either ought to come to a committee, so it's not just one person. And, I mean, we are always,
So we have a process, which we've been doing, and that is approving the confirmation summaries every month. That is the result of our work at the auditor's office that you get to review and vote on. So that's a part of the council's process.
And let's not forget.
It's not my ultimate say, it's your say.
His liaison to the auditor. So using the tools that he has, these 3 tools that he has, he can assist the auditor in making the correct decision based on these tools. I don't think that's the issue. I think truly the issue is in the way the wording of the ordinance is and the full explanation within a higher packet that tells people what they will get and how they will get and why they will get it. Maybe we probably need to fine tune that, Anton, because I don't necessarily think you're,
I hope not.
No,
because I put a lot of work into this.
arbitrarily making stuff up.
And
But
sorry to take it personally.
I think we need to address this. You see what I'm saying?
So
It's all gonna be moot anyway once we redo
we're not going to vote on this tonight, but we are going to have Jim look at it and identify any gray areas. All I want to say to everybody here is that if you don't agree with the document as written, either don't vote for it or give up some good reasons of what needs to be fixed, and we'll make the amendments and then we'll vote on it.
Can I make one last thing? Is this required to be voted on tonight? In my opinion, it is a yes.
It is yes.
In order for us to make this work. So in that case,
We can always change it or correct it.
Exactly.
It's not final today.
You have had a question for 20 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay, so I actually have two questions. So I'm appointed, but I also don't believe in my job description because I haven't looked at it in the last few weeks. It doesn't state that I have to have a diploma to hold the position, but yet I have one and I'm not compensated for having a degree that goes in line with my job description, that goes in line with my job. So then my second is the education component. Anybody can have a degree in anything that falls within the categories and receive the education component. So I'm gonna use county highway for just a second. So he has a laborer, but they have a degree in radio technology or something. They get compensated for that when it doesn't even coincide with their job.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
that's how it's written.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and approve the 2022 salary ordinance with a stipulation that we need an answer from Jim based on finding the two objectives we gave him, and then any such changes that he recommends or we feel we need recommended to change be taken up at our, I don't want to say next meeting because I want to give him plenty of time, but our February meeting. How's that? Is that fair?
Or just as soon as possible.
Okay, as soon as possible. Is that fair?
Motion.
Is fair to go? I'm not gonna answer that question.
Okay.
Well, I'm gonna second the motion.
So I have a question. So you are leaving it open to have any changes in the ordinance, is that?
We can
right? I
make
mean,
any, look, we can make any changes we want at any time. That's the reality. We could pass this today without my stipulation of looking at it ever again, come back in January and go, you know what? I don't like this aspect of it. Let's make a new ordinance with this in it. So that's not the issue. What I'm trying to commit to is to show people that we're gonna specifically look at something. Because we are required to pass this tonight, otherwise we don't have a budget for next year. Or our salary budget for next year is gonna be a problem, isn't it, Jim? Am I mistaken in that?
No,
That's not what I was told today, but whatever.
well, there would need to be a vote taken today. You
Okay.
could come back, you
We're
could
gonna-
amend, you could do.
Except elected
We're
officials.
gonna take that vote. All those in favor? Or wait, I've got a motion and second. All those in favor, say aye. 5. All those against? Okay, 5-1, motion passes.
Andy, can I make a comment I think needs to be brought out in this public meeting? That I did not make this document on my own. This document was sent to me by the auditor's office and said this was the new job description for me. And I had to sign it and return it, and it's what I send to the Department of Homeland Security to get half of my salary reimbursed. They require my job description. This is what I use. There's another document out there I'm supposed to be using. Somebody needs to let me know that. The job description that I got, the other one is 2 years older than this one. And I have a copy of it.
Yeah.
I was told this is the one I'm to be using. To find out in a meeting tonight, that one of the council members says this is not it bothers me.
Yeah, and there probably is some confusion because when we did the wage study, and it wouldn't have been this.
Right.
There were a set of job descriptions recommended by the consultant, but we never went far enough to implement those. So I think there was
This should have
some.
been sent to me.
I agree, but I'm sorry, Jack, for the confusion. I wasn't a part of that, but the job description that, I will assure you that the job description that does apply in this case would be the older one, and those list the compensation components on them.
I saw that, you're right.
Okay, so that's what we have to go
This
by.
document replaces that document.
Got it, understood.
And I have one more request, and I have asked for this and asked for it, and you just made a reference to it, when you were talking about how that worksheet was built, you made a reference to, you used the policies of this board to build that. I have asked for those policies, I've asked for the wording that is used to create that worksheet. I've asked for it several times. Can someone please give me the policies that you referenced to build that worksheet? Because I can't find it.
It is the current one here. The thing that's confusing.
What current one here?
The 2016 version. The older versions are gonna be the same. Yes, but there were some changes in some wording, didn't involve education. But I may have some older copies that I'll try to find. So I will try to, I should have them somewhere.
It doesn't say anything in there about what that spreadsheet says.
Well, I'll tell you, the wording's not any different if you're trying to find something different than
I'm telling you
that. But
the worksheet is in conflict with.
it's just, the worksheet, just for clarity, the worksheet is just simply something to figure numbers and save trouble trying to figure manually and do it all handwritten. It's just a tool. It's not.
It's more than that now after you guys passed it.
Well,
It's law.
it's always been a part
I'm done.
of our work.
You guys voted the way you voted, and I'm done.
All right, 22, budget 1782 notice. We went through some things today.
As Jim had referenced earlier, and I, again, the 1782 notices were sent out. The highway department is still being reviewed. DLGF said to us today that we have met the 10-day period, so it could maybe take a couple more weeks before they have the actual highway section of it fixed. It's in regards to revenues and the reporting that hasn't been done the last few years and the amounts that are there. So we're doing everything we can to get the most money for the highway. There is a proposal tonight, or there was a sheet that was given with the initial cut that was given by DLGF. I think that will still apply as far as those amounts are given. So Jim and Greg and them work together to come up with the list that you have for the cuts. Do they need to take a motion?
The highway superintendent is in total agreement. These are his cuts. He just asked me to really do nothing more than memorialize them. So there's a 1782 original notice that came in. There was been a request by the Owen County Auditor to respond in 10 days that we, as a county, were in disagreement in the projected revenues that the original 1782 notice stated. The field representative then reviewed and accepted numbers, looking at the MVH, so that's normally 1173, 1176. They were in agreement that those numbers were higher than what they had. And then the specific issue was in 1169. There's two revenue sources. One is called revenue, one is called surtax. The original 7882 was about 300,000, in that range. They did not and have not received the actual input of revenue for the numbers. So let me be crystal clear. The money has come in. The revenue has absolutely come in. The revenue is 100% documented by the auditor in Lao. There is no question. However, for DGLF, they are looking for a specific code for surtax and revenue. I apologize, it's a 4-digit number. They're waiting for Owen County to enter the revenue numbers under those codes and submit to them. In any case, most likely, once the numbers match, the revenues that the highway department has coming in, the revenues that DLGF recognizes, there was still an issue about their proposal is probably going to come under $238,000. Highway superintendent reviewed his budget it's 7376, starting with equipment and working down to vehicle rotation. So in your document, you have the original request, you have the new request, and the difference. It would be possible with the council's pleasure to go ahead and approve this difference. This is appropriation only, appropriation only. It is not the amount coming in. So the highway superintendent could easily come back to you in June and say, I'm going to request a $25,000 appropriation in equipment to match. So all you're doing today is matching the second 1782 notice with the highway budget. That would match you in your columns for your 782.
I make a motion that we go ahead and approve the projected 1782 match to agree with the DLGF or SPOA?
DLGF.
DLGF.
And you have those, Mr. President?
Yeah.
I'll second that.
All right, motion on the floor by Chuck, seconded by Nick. To, what was your term, match up the 1782 with
Match
the
1782
the budget?
that was approved by the DLGF.
Andy, okay, just one thing. I spoke a lot, but the highway superintendent's right here. Quickly, you and Andy disagreement with any of these numbers or anything?
I'm not, even with $238,000 cut, highway department's in better shape than it's been in a long time, so we'll live with these numbers.
Thank you.
Yeah, so there were some questions about this, and just so you guys know, I got called this morning, and so Greg was on the call, Jim, Gary, and her, and they worked it out, so big thanks to them. All right, any further discussion? I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? 6-0. All right. Elected officials and department, yes.
I did forget something when I was up there. I was going to ask if I would be able to do numbers since I am short 3 people to possibly, if I can do some shifting between regular wages due to being short 3 people, have the opportunity to possibly fill some stuff with part-time, so that way I'm not working 7 days a week. I can hopefully fill some of the weekends with part-time. But I know that that's meetings, because it takes appropriations and everything to do that. So I didn't know how we might be able to accomplish some of that, to give me some help soon.
Okay, so you got vacant positions and you've got enough money, so I don't understand.
I'm asking, because I don't have a part-time line item.
So you want to change some of your positions from full-time to part-time?
No.
You don't have a part-time line?
Correct, I'm asking if I could add a part-time line item with a certain amount of money in it, and then just have because honestly, part-timers are gonna be people that have currently left. It's not gonna be anybody that's never done the job, because you can't train them to do it. I didn't know what I needed to do to possibly get something like that done.
You would have to come to us with an appropriation for a part-time employee.
Yeah. So, okay, because I didn't anticipate being 3 down to get it on the agenda to be advertised to be approved in January.
Who's your liaison?
Holly and Chuck.
I would ask that, unfortunately, I don't think we can help you.
Yeah, I don't think because the soonest it would get done would be February, isn't it?
Yes,
Even if it was advertised in January, then voted on in February.
Yeah.
And then set for approval, and then March.
we could consider it next month.
I'll work on some stuff and see how it's gonna be.
I'll need an additional appropriation form for your raises for your people too.
Yeah.
I'll have to put that on the
We'll work on the
January.
dollar.
Yeah.
Okay, other department heads. All right, yeah, well, let me get through here real quick. Jim, you got anything else?
No, nothing else, thank you.
Okay, good, go.
Okay, very quickly, Mayor Martin, Deputy Chancellor. The thing that I wanted to get to the crux of the meeting today, people, was, in my opinion, this ARPA funds, the Ready Initiative, the Comprehensive Plan, the Redevelopment Commission, the DPP water people, all of these things have got all this free money. Things that looks like they're free. However, if you look at the documents that go with those things, you'll see that they end up throwing the county and the people in the county into a regionalism type of form of government. So the money really isn't free, and the things that they promise sound really nice. But the things that go with the agreements, when you agree to these things and sign up for them, they hook you. And these are nice big fat worms on a hook, and if you bite it, you can't hardly get out. I can't see ways to get out of it. But the thing about it is, it's anything to do with regionalism, all these things I just mentioned, that's the glory plan with all the free money, okay, right? There's a fish hook there. And so it's like that pamphlet I passed out to everybody on that for your own information. Research that yourself and don't go by just like somebody promoting a whole big bunch of free money.
Thank you, Baron. Nicole? Okay.
Good to have you back, buddy.
Good, yeah, good to have you here. Thanks for coming.
Glad to be back.
All right, council. All right, so we've got an approved meeting schedule. By the way, elections will be held next month, so be thinking about that as well. And from the bottom of my heart, I wish everybody here a Merry Christmas.
Amen. Merry Christmas. Motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Thanks again for that there, Nick.